way that makes life a little better for the rest of the world.
Well, very good. So maybe there'll be an email going out to everyone, probably
Yes,
about.
there will be. There's a link. There's a chat notice in our chat right now, explaining how it will work. We're asking everyone to email me. Of course, I neglected to put my email down, so I'll do that. To reserve your bottles, and then that will help us decide how many to pour on the Sunday. And then you'll pick them up on Sunday, the 28th, and drink them on Monday, the 29th. The quick turnaround is simply so that the wine doesn't spoil between the time it's poured and the time you pick it up. So I'm just about to type my email here, or you can respond some other way.
Super. Thank you, Charles. And let's pause and just reflect on everything that's been going on. I know a couple weeks ago we reviewed what went on over the last year and all with COVID and all, and just a lot going on. So let's take a moment, and I'll say the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll lead it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
And it really feels again like we actually have that.
You got it.
Yeah. So that's great. And I'd like to welcome guests. Bruce, welcome. Would you like to say anything at this point?
Yeah, hey, John, I'll have a little bit to say district stuff whenever you get around to it, okay?
Okie doke, great. And you got some Janice in the waiting room. And so I had a bone-up session with Gwen and Celia and Billy last night, so I think it'll be okay. Welcome, everyone. And announcements. March is water. Well, I have a test. Who knows what March is? Yes,
Safe water.
First day of spring.
it's first day of spring. Yeah, it's water and sanitation month.
It also includes Pi Day, which we missed.
Right.
It is.
It was 14.
I know.
And daylight saving. March is
Daylight
busy.
savings. Yep.
March is a busy month.
And allergies. I mean, some of the, man, I know the allergies are happening. Birthdays. We have some birthdays.
John, A2 Brute.
Yeah. Jonathan Klein, March 22nd. Is that today? Hey, happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
It's his birthday. Yeah. Happy birthday to you, Jonathan. And Lynn Jones, March 30th.
Okay.
I know. So we've got two. It's not like August where everybody had their birthday twice or something. So anniversaries, none. Oh, sad. Rotary anniversaries, none. But we have spring, we all lost an hour of sleep or something, but so that was okay. Upcoming events.
Coming up.
Upcoming events, March 29th. And actually, Charles just covered that. I'm reading from President Jim's list here. Virtual social vocational meeting. There we have it. Any update? Hey, Ron, is it possible to get an update on COVID, please?
Oh, aren't you guys tired of COVID?
Yep, very tired. However, we get our second shot tomorrow.
I don't know, Ron, are you tired of COVID?
Oh, I am exhausted. The latest and greatest is that, they expected the count of virus testing to go down. We were sitting at 150 per thousand, and they really thought with all the vaccines that it would start dropping, and it's just plateaued.
Mm.
It is not going down at all.
Mhm.
They're kind of thinking that there's now up to 150 variants
Oh.
of the COVID-19, and some they're keeping a watch on, some they're not so far worried about it, just keeping watches on it. But 150 types of variants of this COVID-19 is mutated so much
Wow.
that is just unbelievable. They've had a little bit of even in the Eastern Washington, they've had a little bit of I would say a hot spot of a certain variant that they're keeping an eye on. You know, the vaccine still, they say, is still kind of is still enough to the effective rate is still high for even the variants, but they're keeping an eye on it. You know, as it mutates through. The one positive good notes: there's no flu. There's no other flu. Yeah, right. Everyone is washing their hands, wearing the mask. It kind of says that, you know, there is a reason why that has stopped. What the last thing that the governor's office did tell us today was the only real way of preventing this is that the COVID-19 bacteria virus loves bad behavior. It just loves bad behavior. And with, you know, as you've seen in Miami and all of that is happening, they're really worried about the state opening up more. But you kind of have to because of the economy and people need to go back to work. But we're all watching that with the opening up, watching up with the different variants that's happening. And so, yeah, I'm tired of it. I'm sure you're tired of it. So far, at least on our island, we do really, really well as compared to other counties in the state. But that's about it. The number of vaccines coming into the state and coming into the island is increasing. So that's great. We still have openings in our schedule at the hospital to get to be vaccinated. We know as the governor opens up to more and more classifications, that'll be a bigger, tremendous burden on the Island County Health Department and those who give the vaccines. But we're ready. We're going to do it. And again, thanks you guys is your team and this team that said, you know, why don't you try Pastor Jim at Lutherans at Trinity? And we've used that a couple of times. We'll continue to use him if he allows us to. But that's been a big positive in this for the south part of the island. And so really, and it came from this Rotary group. So great job. I appreciate it.
Ron, I hear that Skagit County gets recognized for being the most, you know, immunized. How is Island County doing? Do you know any of the percentages?
I don't know the percentages. I know that Skagit likes to toot their own horn, and you know, and people are really good at doing that. And you know, Keith Higman from Island County Health Department, myself, and you know, let's just do it right. Let's just keep doing it, regardless of what the numbers say. I think it states on how effective we are is basically trying to get the word out, to really support people to get vaccinated. It still bothers me that, you know, the person who I date, Mary, her daughter is 21 and refuses, and she works in childcare, you know, and it just drives me nuts. That age, and that is the age, 20 to 45, that age group just does not want to get vaccinated, doesn't think anything of it. And so that's the education that has to happen, is to get that age group to say, hey, it is important. It will affect my mom or my grandma, and it just drives me nuts.
Yeah, Ron, thank you so much. Is there anything you need from us other than maybe beer from time to time? I mean,
beer, and I love this Bloom thing. I'll be. What time can I pick it up? And can I get 2 of them?
Business hours on the 28th.
Okay.
John?
Great.
John?
Yes.
So
Yes, please.
I got my second shot through Pfizer at Island Drug, but I wanted to remind people that if you have a second shot scheduled, you have Pfizer, if it's less than 21 days, they will not give you a shot. So there was 3 or 4 people ahead of me who had scheduled, I guess themselves, I don't know, but it was only 18 or 19 days and they turned them away. So if you're going to get a second shot, it's got to be at least 21 days with Pfizer. And
I've tried it. I've tried it and then I've been turned down. I have a regular appointment now, but I've tried it a couple times and there was just no slack.
Well, it has to be at least, yeah, they're 21. Now, Ron, is there going to be some kind of sign up for those people that have, I mean, for when you have extras and things like that?
We do, like when every day when we have our clinic, you know, we don't know if we're gonna get, you know, Pfizer, you could get maybe 6 shots, sometimes 5. Moderna, you could get 10, maybe 11. And so we try to get as much as we can out of the little virals. And so if we see that people are no-shows or something, we have a waiting list that we call. Usually it's the next day, people who are on there say, hey, can you come on in? And so we have these amazing volunteers who are on it and just say, hey, you know what, we're gonna have, it's 3:45, we close at 6. It looks like we're gonna have some leftovers, boom. And our waste is like 0.01%, an incredible minimal amount of waste of the viral.
So how do you get on that list?
Email me, let me know, and I'll get you on that list.
Okay, thanks.
So Ron,
Yeah.
I got a question. Sharon and I are fortunate. We have received both our shots. And if that having been accomplished, if we stay home, can I indulge in a little bad behavior?
God.
I'll suffer for that later, I know.
Well, good, Ron. Thanks for the update. Anybody have any questions of Ron? Anything there? We know what kind of beer you like, so that's an answered question.
Any kind of beer.
Yeah, Gordy, thanks for your update as well.
You're welcome.
All righty, so let's go into director reports. Any director reports? Let's go through fundraising. Tracy. Oh, I have one for Tracy. The Easter egg hunt eggs, if you can get with her to cooperate. She's got a lot of eggs to get rid of there, so that would be good. And let's see, projects. Any? Yeah, Larry.
Sorry. Tracy brought up at the board meeting last week that so far, almost all of the eggs that have been sold, she has actually sold out of her salon, and hardly any Rotary members are buying any. And so I'm just encouraging everybody to think about who they would like to have egged, and let's all pitch in and make this thing a real fundraiser.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. And projects, Molly, any update or thoughts there?
Molly went away, didn't she?
Molly went away. Let's see.
She
did.
Maybe I could just add a comment that we talked about it a little bit for those of us that were here before opening the meeting, but we are going to do the wrap up on the landscape work that was funded by a grant we achieved at Children's Center. This Saturday morning, 10 o'clock to possibly 12 at the most, we're going to place some gravel in the areas next to where sodding was done and some edging and a little bit of stone path work. We'll have gravel delivered and they're on site. Hopefully we'll have 3, possibly 4 wheelbarrows with operators and shovels. And I'll have also some edging, garden edging, the plastic type that work typically between lawn and gardens. And in addition to that, there may be also the digging and planting of ornamental plantings in some areas next to the fence. If you're interested, there's probably room for 4 to 5 more people that are going to be there to come and spend a couple of hours on Saturday morning. The weather looks at this early point in the week to be a good one, so I'm hoping it'll hold that way. Just let me know, or perhaps the secretary knows. And they will be issuing a reminder that you can get on your computer, but you can also give me a call. Look forward to anybody that might be interested. It gets to be too many, I'll let you know.
And where is this? Where is Children's Center?
I'm sorry, it is the Children's.
You're muted.
There with them, so many of us perhaps know exactly where we're at. But they're there just 100 yards south of the intersection where Wicca is. And they've got a daycare operation there for the little kids. That's great. And they're improvements over the years now. It's a pretty nice facility. So that's where we'll be.
Good. Great. Any other questions?
Hey, Gordy, isn't that where we painted the fence and painted the picnic tables and things like that? It's the same
Yes.
place, right?
Yes, it's been done in the past.
Yeah.
We did a painting fence for the kids. And we did a climbing wall for the kids. You may recall that.
Right.
So that's the spot.
Good. Excellent. Fantastic. Membership. Sharon, any update in membership?
I would only have one thing. We all are on the membership committee. So if you have folks out there that you've been waiting to bring back, it's beginning to look like we might have a meeting in the next month or two that will be an in-person meeting. So get in contact with those folks that may have been on in the back of your list and put them at the top and encourage them to Zoom in. And I hope we're going to be seeing all of you in person very soon.
Great. Thank you, Sharon.
Mhm.
Any questions about membership, anyone? Admin, Charles, any update? I know we're going to have a party next week.
No, the update is all about the party. Just asking people to email me and send me an email with wine in the subject so that we can create a list of those people who are going to pick them up on Sunday, the 28th. And so that Blooms knows how many to prepare for us. That email will go out in just a few minutes to the entire group. And then once you've registered by your email to me, you can pick up your wine on Sunday, the 28th, and we will all gather for a wine tasting on Monday, the 29th, led by Virginia or a designee.
Right, super, super duper. Thanks so much, Charles. Public image, Gwen's on the road. Okay. So we'll go on to youth services. Bill or Eddie, any update?
Yeah, do you want to, Wednesday, we will find out more about how many kids we've got for the Easter egg. And we reached out to Carlos. He is going to get as many kids as he can. We just get 1 or 2 or 3 of the girls to go out.
Okay.
Their club that are active will be okay, I think.
Okay.
Find out Wednesday.
Good, good. Anyone else? We're missing any reports or anybody want to chime in before Bill goes to his classification? Ed?
John, could I do my little thing on the district?
You're on mute.
John?
Oh, Ed's trying to talk.
Yeah, I'm trying to get Ed to. Ed, need to unmute Ed.
Try that.
You're good, okay. And then to Bruce, please. Go ahead.
There was a discussion with regards to scholarships, and we made a presentation, short presentation at the last meeting. The question was, why do we not have more scholarship applicants at this time of year? The morning club has a lot of them, as Bruce has explained, and is questioning just exactly how the word is getting out to the students. I personally met with Nicole Longden over at the school. She's the counselor. She perused her files, and I'm quoting, "I am attaching all of the scholarship information I could find on both the Rotary scholarships, i.e. the Whidbey Westside and the Morning Club, Whidbey South. There are 3 of them. One of them is written for the for the Rotary South, Whidbey South, and 2 of them are written for us, the Whidbey Westside. The action on that is not surprising, given what Bill and I have been through with trying to get the Interact Club established and enthusiasm and so on. Students have been muscled about in various ways, on and off. The instructors and teachers have been changed around. So we simply, after looking at the literature that's available, any student, and we advise them, we talk to them, any student can go to this young lady, Nicole Longden, and she will provide them with a copy of that. If there are issues associated with the invitations themselves, then we'll have to go back as separate groups and mix, take a look at those. But right now, we don't believe there's any issues associated with the invitations to apply for scholarship. Bruce, you want to comment?
Yeah, normally by this time, we'll have 20 to 30, well, by the end of March. We'll probably have to extend the invite. Instead of the 1st of May, we'll probably, 1st of April, probably have to extend it to the 1st of May, just because people are not getting the information. But thanks for getting back to Nicole. She's the one they all have to work through. She's the school counselor. She knows, she's been doing this, and I don't need to enter into it. You've told the clubs to interact, and we get what we get, I mean,
How many do you have so far?
as far as I know, we have none. Last year we gave, I think, we gave 8 scholarships, like 8 or 9 last year.
Right, so we need to get the word out. Bruce, is there any?
We might push that a little bit by Ed thankfully talked to Nicole, and we could probably push that a little bit by being more proactive when going right to John Patton and saying, look, we want to get this word out because these kids are going to be graduating and so on and so forth. So,
we went on Facebook. There was an invite out on Facebook, and I think there was also one that went out on Craigslist too.
What about Drew's list?
No, Drew's list, yeah.
So there's some work to do there. Bruce, was there something else you wanted to talk about, or was?
Yeah, one has to do with youth. Today, District Governor-elect Bev sent out the youth protection forms that have to be filled out. Anybody that has contact with Interact, Yale, RILA, anything like that must go through a background check. And these files have to be filled out and they got to get to the district. You're not allowed to have any contact with youth in any way, shape, or form without having these files filled out on you. Period. I mean, it's just, there is no question. So I think you've probably done that before, John, or had it, but they're saying, this has to be done.
We did it last year. Do we need to do it again?
That's a good question. Not unless you've done something since then. I don't know.
We've, I recall talking to the individual that was receiving our applications because of our flight club. And we were told that once we did that, once they'd done a background check, that was done. That part was done.
It's there's it just today to it came from the district. It went out to Jim, and it also went to Gwen, so you can get a hold of them if you think there's any question. Okay, I'm just saying they're very strict about this. Okay. The second thing, and this has to be addressed also shortly. Well, two things. One of them is time constraint. The district is coming out, it just came out with a 2021-22 budget. It also went to Jim and Gwen, and your club will have to meet with probably your board and give Gwen and Jim a heads up or a heads down approval, because they need 75% approval by the club to adopt the district budget. So whoever's working on that, treasurer, whatever, somebody's got to address that. And finally, there's a new thing that just came out, announced today. Be more information. There's going to be what's called a Polio Plus Club. Polio Plus is it's set up on a national basis, not just district. If you pledge to give at least $100 a year to Polio Plus, they're going to have a whole bunch of special recognitions, pins, and all types of things to encourage people to contribute $100 a year to Polio Plus. And there'll be a lot more coming out of that in the next week or so. And finally, for all of you, you are all invited to March 31st. I'm sure you've received an email on this, March 31st at 7 p.m. The training fiesta kicks off. We got a great speaker called Kent Keith, and he has a presentation called Paradoxical Commandments. I'm interested in finding out what that is. And it's about the kickoff of the fiestas. Anybody in the club can sign up for these classes and anything you want. Okay, they're all free. There's going to be offered through the month of April, Monday through Thursday in the evenings. They'll have a whole schedule. You can go through and pick out what you want. I encourage those who have leadership positions in, for example, membership. There's like 3 membership sessions. Treasurer, there's several. Unfortunately, those will be held in May because a lot of treasurers around the district were CPAs and they were overloaded. But then again, now they just extended that till May. So I don't know what that's, but anyway, treasurers, secretaries, committee chairs, obviously president, elects, whatever, but anybody can go. I strongly encourage you to sign some of those, especially if you're new to Rotary, and it helps you find out what Rotary is really about. And they have put a lot of work and effort into this, and I really, really want to encourage you to do it. So that's my push for today.
Thank you, Bruce. Thanks very much. We need to get to Bill's classification, but Rick, you had a question, please?
Yeah, mine was related back to the scholarships, and just a reminder that our club does vocational scholarships, and we are not limited to age, that it's any age and any time. And so we need to reach out to those that are in need of retraining, perhaps during the pandemic, or for whatever reasons to broaden our look beyond even the schools and look into the community for people that are looking for second careers or whatever. And the other thing is I've been tasked with trying to put together this leadership training. Actually, it's more like president nominee designate training. If anybody has suggestions for items that we might want to add to help encourage people to become president of this club or any leadership role in this, we're looking for ways to provide incentives and initiative for people to move up the chairs, be on committees, and be participants. So.
We almost had a through Sam Martin. Did he ever get a hold of you, Jane, through a scholarship for EMT and firefighting? Okay.
Okay, unless there's any other discussion on anything, let's kick off into Bill Leeds classification. Does that sound good, Bill?
Okay, we're ready.
Okay, and we practiced this a bit yesterday night, but let's see what we got. Here we go.
Bill's virus software wouldn't allow sharing of screens, so John is playing my.
Yeah, let's see what we got. So far,
got it. Okay. So,
all right.
5 years ago, when I joined the club, Jane said, "Oh, Bill, you're really going to enjoy doing this because it'll be meaningful to you." And I thought, maybe. So, but she was absolutely right. It caused me to go back into my life and look at the people that I've met and the experiences that I've had. And I realized that I've been really fortunate in meeting the right people at the right time, whether it was a tough position to be in or just having a good time. And I always appreciated Emily Dickinson's, it's forever is composed of nows. So this is really a recap of some of the nows that I recall. Next slide would be, I during World War II, I was living with my mom at both grandparents' houses because my dad was overseas for 4 years in the South Pacific. And I looked at my so I was raised, my role models were really my two grandfathers and of course my dad. And I looked at those three role models and I thought, no way I'm going to fill those shoes. They were just too big. So I'm going to have to find my own way. And so these are the nows that I recall. I'll go from there. And the first next is, I call him Yoda. He was my dad's dad. And this guy was, I have never met anybody I enjoyed talking to more. He was an icon of a grandparent. He was West Point. He was second in his class next to MacArthur, who was a good buddy of his. It always bothered him that he couldn't beat MacArthur in math, but they were good friends. I have a letter on my wall that my sister dug out of my dad's trunk, said, Bill, I think we ought to save this. And it was a letter from MacArthur to him. And it's just MacArthur's typical colorful, poignant writing, but they were good friends. I think my grandfather had supported him during one of his fracases with Truman. But point being that during World War II, he would take me out to movies to teach me whether things were right or wrong, like going to the John Wayne movies, and these are the good guys and these are the bad guys. So we would do that every Sunday. And then later on, when I was in my early 20s, I would go down and talk to him on Sunday religiously, just to shoot the bull and have a good time, because he was been a very formative person in my life. So that was one side. The other side, next slide, is my dad. Let's go into him first, but he was also West Point, followed in my grandfather's footsteps. There was one thing that he said, this is the biggest sin you can ever commit, and that was telling a lie. He was all about honesty, and if that flag ever touched the ground, no, can't do it. And it was all about telling the truth. I revered these two guys. I mean, they were awesome. When he got to be in his almost 90, he was in a elder care home, and they didn't allow alcohol, but he loved his martinis. And so I would take up a pitcher of martinis, and we'd sit in the car, and we would just have a little meeting in the car with a couple of martinis. And I'll tell this story at the end if there's time, but I have the 45 that he carried in World War II, and my grandfather carried in World War I. And we learned to fire on, and then I got caught on the wrong end of that one night, and I'll tell you more about that. But Dad came home with 2 Bronze Stars. I was, obviously proud of both of those guys. So that was that side of the family. Next is the other side of the family. Yeah, my third, I'd say, mentor was my grandfather on the other side, who I don't have a picture of, but his father was the first Presbyterian minister in Chile. So he was born in Chile. He was all about individual possibility, coloring outside the lines. He was a great tennis player, taught me how to play tennis, along with coaching our aunt to be the national champion, I think women's champion. He smuggled gold, according to him, across the border in Chile. Under his shirt, and he was arrested for racing with one of his best friends in their Stutz Bearcats in Pasadena. When the cop pulled them both over, he went to his buddy first and started arresting him, and my grandfather pulled out and left. So anyway, this was the other side of that family. Was my grandmother, who I loved, but she had me memorize passages in the Bible on Sunday, as opposed to going out and playing baseball with my friends. So that it subtracted somewhat from my enthusiasm for organized religion at that point. Anyway, long story short, with those 2 grandfathers, I had kind of both sides, the free and let's have fun and have a straight back. And when I was 17, a friend of mine and I were out in raising cane on 4th of July, and my friend tossed a package of firecrackers out of the car at a stoplight when they landed under a Nash Rambler, which happened to be a cop on his way to work. And oh my God, yeah, we ended up in jail, and my friend got bailed out. His dad came and bailed him out right away. My dad said, no, let him sit there overnight. They're doing good. And came and picked me up the next morning. And then going down in the elevator, I looked at him, I was embarrassed. And I said, I don't know what to say. And he said, well, I think you just said it. So that cemented some thoughts in my, and anyway, this resolved itself by my moral conflict. Every time, the honesty part was every time you apply for a job, now you got to say you have a jail record. So I would always put down, oh yeah, I was in jail when I was 17. Finally, one of my bosses, after they'd hired me, said, Bill, let me give you a clue. After you're 18, your juvenile record is expunged. But this was a good experience, and we had fun with it. So next is I have a sister. She is the humorist and mischief maker, and we're close. She lives down in Squim. She made me, I think it was for my 50th birthday, a water balloon launcher, which had a pocket in it it's about 1 foot by 3 feet of sailcloth and about 6 bands of surgical tubing on each side to launch things no larger than a cantaloupe. Well, more about that later, but she is here telling a probably politically incorrect joke to Karen, because she knows funny buttons well, and knows mine, knows Karen's. So that's my little sister. And next, it was when I went to college. I left Southern California and went to Denison in Ohio, which is, that was a wake-up call. Having lived in Southern California I was somewhat used to being close to Hollywood and the veneer and so on. And I realized, wow, I like the Midwest. This is really what you see is what you get. The people were awesome. And I loved it. I majored in speech, which I found out later was probably not quite enough to do what I wanted to do. So next is I went to, after I got out of Denison, I went to Pittsburgh and was working for a company in Pittsburgh, and it was Vietnam time, and I realized that I better join and at least have as much choice as I could as opposed to be drafted. So I ended up going into the National Guard. This was the weapon that our National Guard unit ultimately was tasked with, which is a 106 recoilless rifle on the back of a Jeep, which was designed to take out tanks, probably up to a mile or so away. And when I went to basic training, I went to Fort Knox in Kentucky. I look back on it as a great experience. We had a very, very fine first field sergeant who said, look, guys, we're going to do this the real way, I think he was in Korea, come back from Korea, or we're going to do it the easy way. Well, we knew, obviously you're going to do it the hard way anyway, so might as well vote for the hard way. But it was nothing compared to what others went through in reality, but we learned a lot. I was fortunate to get in with a platoon of doctors and lawyers and educated guys. We had a ball. I learned that I better learn something to talk about when I was going through this with these guys. So anyway, long story short, later, after that, I was in the National Guard for 6 years. And at Camp Roberts, where we went for summer camp every year, our unit commander was, I have to say, one of the most interesting individuals I've met. If you remember the book, Mr. Roberts, he was like Mr. Roberts. He was a mischief maker. We would have followed him anywhere, but he was the right guy. And another case of being in the right place at the right time. We had this next slide. I'm sorry, I forgot to say this, John, but we got to the mortar range mischief here was we had that 106 out on the firing range, and there was a tank about a mile away, which was our target. And next door to us was the mortar range where they were firing at mortars. And that was they had an old car out there. It was about 100 yards out that they were firing at. And they'd been picking away at this thing for about a month. And I looked at our CO and I thought, no, don't do it. And he said, watch this. And he leveled the 106 on the car. Well, the biggest piece of that car that came down was out of the air was about probably you could put in your pocket. But he was, it was the kind of guy he was. And after that, the fellow from the next range came running over, exploding 4-letter words, and it was the general who was commanding officer who had been watching this whole thing go on and berated our CO, obviously. Well, that night our CO exchanged tires with the general's Jeep, took his old Baldwins and put them on the general's Jeep, took his. And so anyway, what we did not end up going to Vietnam. His statement was, the way we're trained, we'll go 90 days after women and children. And it was basically, I had a good learning curve there. It was a chance to see somebody who knew how to do things, but could keep a sense of humor during all of this. So it was fun. Next, I went to UCLA because I believed these guys that I had met in basic training, and I thought I better get a degree in marketing. So anyway, long story short, I went back, got my MBA in marketing, and enjoyed UCLA, excuse me, immensely. Next was my first real job was a 5-year stint as market research manager for a company called Sweco, Southwestern Engineering Company, which was, I was truly lucky there because I was manager was the perfect job. I was manager of market research for a company that had the top, this was a vibrating screen that you're looking at, which would vibrate and shake, let's say, grain or food or whatever down into sizes. And it was sold to all industries. And I got to be manager of market research. And we sold to everything from the food industry to the, oh gosh, metalworking with like equipment and so on. The big experience, next slide, is really, it was 5 years of learning. There were 24 sales reps out in the field, which I lived with for 5 years. I just went out under the VP sales, who was by the name of Zach Meridian. It turned out that his nephew, and he was the VP sales. My boss was the VP marketing, and they did not get along. The VP sales was Zach Meridian. He would, as he said, I said, I'm just a Armenian rug merchant. He was the best salesperson I've ever met. And he was a tough, kind-hearted guy. He used to take me down to the freight depot at the railway station during lunch and show me how I could get distressed freight, get a new suit for $20, but took me under his wing. And I always loved the guy because he was so straight up. I went out with his sales reps. My job was to visit these guys, look at their territory, try to help them build their territory with market research. And it was a cultural wake-up call because I could travel all across the country. And I remember when I went down to Alabama, and there were a couple of times that I had been down south before, but I noticed when I got off the bus that the difference, obviously, in the culture, having been in Southern California. And I was sitting at the dinner table with our rep in Alabama, in Birmingham, and his wife for dinner. Wonderful people. And I still had a lot of the baby fat from college, and I just thought, this is, you guys don't think the same way we do, and when is this equality thing going to take hold? And so he looked at me and he said, Bill, he said, you don't realize how long this is going to take. His father had been in the Klan, and we had a long discussion. This guy was liberated, and I mean, he was obviously up to date in his thinking, but my gosh, I got a real wake-up call. I mean, that was the real thing. As far as the night in Toronto, when I went up to visit the Toronto rep and look at his territory, I probably should have realized when he put my bags in the trunk of the car, and he had a trunk full of velvet wrapped Seagram 7 bottles that he gave away to his clients in the trunk. And we went down the main street of Toronto on the way to his office. And he said, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do, Bill. Tonight, we're going to do this side of the street. Tomorrow night, we're going to do the other side of the street. And he meant hitting every bar. So, okay. And anyway, we made it through the first night. The second night, we got through, and he ran his car into a tree on the way back. And we were fine. I mean, we weren't hurt, but long story short, I went to the office the next morning and he was still asleep in his desk chair, but we had a great time with people. I did with people like this, just a difference in the rep. They were all extremely good. They were the best in their territories. I was finally put on, I think one of my toughest projects was visiting every sewage treatment plant in the country that was over a certain size, because we were into wastewater separation. And I couldn't smell for a week after I got back. So the lesson I got was to, anyway, know your market, respect your salespeople, have good relationships. It was really all about relationships. And the next slide shows Zach, who was the leader of the 24 reps, is the guy that took me down to the freight depot, and his nephew, who I knew in the Army. And it turned out that these two, Zach Meridian and Saul Chuljan, they claimed they were the Southern California branch of the Armenian mafia, but they were both wonderful guys. I consulted with his buddy or his nephew. Anyway, during Squeako time, 3 months courtship with my now wife of 52 years, and I had met the right person, and I was truly blessed. And that's when all the fun started. Next, we had a daughter, and so I still remember going up and in the hospital when the doctor picked me up in the lobby and said, "What did you want, a boy or a girl?" And I said, "Well, as long as it's as long as it's healthy, I don't care. Either one are great, but I probably prefer a girl." I said, "Good, that's what you got." So I was happy. We had a grandson, and so I had the best of both worlds. Next was I went to work for a company called IMA, who I'd been consulting with just on my own for a while. They said, "Why don't you just come in and be an employee?" And they were consulting with large companies. They competed with McKinsey and people like that. Great experience. Got the working tools, did market studies. One problem was they didn't have a prospecting system. They had no pipeline of new business leads. And so I came back it was after a year. I worked for them for a year and came back from Hawaii and having spent $2,000 and having a newborn child. And they said, "We're closing the company." And I said, "Thanks guys for telling me." Well, before I spent $2,000 on a vacation. Well, we didn't want to ruin your vacation. So anyway, that was, I was without a job. So I thought, what do I have? What can I sell? Next was, you can't solve problems with thinking the same way. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? And I said, I'm never going to be without prospects again. So I went on, did some consulting, and then a headhunter called me and said, we have a division of informatics software that has a failing division, and they want somebody to take it over. Well, which is what I did. And there was no time for a business plan. They were losing money. We formed an inside sales team. People would ask, what kind of profile does it take to be on the phone? And the answer to that really was it varies by a lot of things, which I won't go into, but we had an ex-minister, a Navy SEAL, both selling software, and none of us do anything about software. And the secret that I learned there was, if I go to you and say, and you're the expert in it, and say, what would you say to a prospect about your piece of software? You would tell me, because you know. And what I had to do is to paraphrase that, put it into a certain amount of, let's say, human language, and get it out to the person that we're talking to. And we did that, and it worked extremely well. We set up reps again outside. We had reps outside and inside. We increased the sales by a factor of 10, I think, the first couple of years. Got it profitable. I stayed 5 years. And then we took it on the road. I left, and next was.
Yeah, excuse me, Bill.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I really apologize interrupting. I really do. There's 3 minutes.
We're gonna go through this real quick.
Okay, my friend.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
we were basically the basics were getting a good sales lead. What did it take? These are the things that it really took. Let's go to the next one. We formed Leeds Consulting Group. Next slide. We basically helped companies keep their customers, grow them, add new customers. We did it we formed a process. Next slide, we can go through quickly too. And the bottom line was, what are we going to do for you? We're going to help you keep your people in front of your salespeople in front of prospects, closing business. And that's what we did for 30 years. We did that. We had about 650 companies we worked for, small to large. We co-published 3 books. One of them, the next slide, was Prentice Hall took hold of this. We put this out really to see if we knew what we were talking about, not to make money, but just to this is before the insurance call during dinner. And Prentice Hall made a big deal out of it, and they sold a lot of it. Triangles was essentially quality and process and having fun. And we had, I won't go into the fun stories, but we had a ton of fun. Empty nest syndrome, got in the Big Brothers for 30 years. Let's go to the next slide. This is my little brother. He was, this kid was, when I took him at 8 years old, his mother had OD'd at 7 when he was 7 years old. His father was in jail all of his life. Let's go to the next slide. I won't go into all the stories, but we did slingshot tree houses. He said during tree houses, he said, "Oh, is this what you mean by male bonding?" And anyway, he coached a team, the girls basketball team, to the state championships, and he's now sales manager, and he's just doing really well. Next was, we came up to Seattle. Take a break. Okay, let's go to Seattle. We came to Seattle. We can go to the next slide. And we got a dog, and this guy was he was handsome, and he was my buddy. We ran for 14 years in the mornings. Next slide was, had a daughter or a grandson, and next slide is, as you know, you guys that are grandparents, battery charge is guaranteed. It takes 2 minutes on the floor to get over anything else. And this is him at 6 years old. He was born to be on a bike. Let's go to the next one. Founder syndrome. I was going to sell a company, couldn't do it. Founder of Cliff Bars walked into a meeting and said, "I can't sell at the last minute." I couldn't sell the company. I left the meeting, and we just decided to travel. Let's go back. Go ahead. We went. Then we started traveling. Karen, next slide. My cruise director. We went. Oh gosh, Hawaii. Next slide was Europe, and the next slide is France. We went all over and have been all over. Next, hey, the next part of it was that I met Ed and came to Rotary, and now I'm back with the best of the best. So that's endless possibility at work. So that's basically it. The 45 story, if we have time for it, I'll tell, but otherwise I'll let it go. I can tell you that. If you want to hear, it's a funny story. That 45, I came into the house one night of my parents' house. I had a date in Pasadena, and it was before we got married. And I came into the house at 2 a.m. in my folks' house because I didn't want to drive all the way to the valley. My sister was away at school, and I figured I'd just sleep in her bedroom. And coming in at 2 in the morning wasn't a good idea. I went to bed, turned the lights out. I saw a light at the window, and it was 2 cops, one huge and one had a sawed-off shotgun. And I said, "Wait, I live here." And he said, well, the big cop said, "I'll tell you what, you come out of there right now or I'm firing through the window." And I thought, oh God. And I walked out. Here's my dad with the 45 standing in the door of his bedroom. My mom's under the bed. And he got the 45 cocked and pointed at me. He said, "Well, I was going to shoot if it hadn't been you." And my mom was upset at us for a week. My dad and I laughed it off, but it was, knowing today's news, it could have been worse. So anyway, that's my story.
Thank you, Bill. It was very enlightening, and it's so good to get to know you and others as we go through classifications more intimately as friends and family. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
So I will do the till next time. Thank you all.
All right, guys.
Thanks. Bye.